The rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of the penthouse office like 1,000 desperate fingers seeking entry. Elena Vasquez pressed her palm against the cold glass, watching the city lights blur into watercolor streaks 40 stories below. Her reflection stared back at her, pale skin, dark circles under amber eyes, and the kind of exhaustion that sleep couldn't fix. She was supposed to be celebrating 3 years of working as a legal consultant for Marchetti Enterprises, and tonight she'd finally closed the Cardenas merger, a deal worth $200 million. Her boss, the enigmatic Dante Marchetti, had left her alone in his office to make a personal call in private, a gesture she'd found surprisingly considerate for a man with his reputation. But celebration was the furthest thing from her mind. Elena's phone sat on Dante's massive mahogany desk, its screen still glowing. The call had ended 5 minutes ago, or so she thought. Her hands trembled as she reached for it, her sister Maya's final words still echoing in her ears. "It's done, Elena. He can't hurt anyone anymore." The phone slipped from her fingers, clattering against the desk. Elena's breath came in short, sharp gasps as the reality of the past hour crashed over her like a tidal wave. She stumbled backward, her heel catching on the Persian rug, and grabbed the edge of a leather chair to steady herself. "Oh God," she whispered to the empty room. "Oh God, what have we done?" The city sprawled beneath her, oblivious and glittering. Somewhere out there, in a modest apartment in Queens, her sister Maya was standing over a body. Their stepfather's body. The man who had made their childhood a nightmare, who had recently resurfaced with threats and demands for money they didn't have. Elena had planned it all. Every detail. Every contingency. And now, it was real. She needed to pull herself together. She needed to think. The call with Maya had been encrypted, untraceable, she'd made sure of that. No one knew. No one could know. "I researched everything," Elena said aloud, her voice barely above a whisper, needing to hear the words to convince herself. "The insulin overdose will look like natural causes. He's diabetic. The autopsy won't, it shouldn't." She pressed her hands against her face, trying to slow her racing heart. Speaking into the silence of Dante's office felt safer somehow, like releasing poison from a wound. Maya followed the plan perfectly. No forced entry. "She used her key from when we were kids, he never changed the locks, the arrogant bastard. She wore the gloves I gave her. Hospital grade, untraceable." Elena's laugh was brittle, breaking at the edges. "God, I sound insane. I am insane. I just helped my sister commit murder." The word hung in the air like smoke. "But he deserved it," she continued, her voice gaining strength, justification pouring out like a confession. "After everything he did to us. After he beat Maya so badly she lost her baby. After the years of..." Elena's voice cracked. She couldn't say it. Even now, even alone, some words refused to leave her throat. "The police won't suspect anything. Maya will call 911 in exactly 45 minutes, like we planned. She'll be the grieving stepdaughter who found him collapsed. I'll be at work, surrounded by witnesses. Perfect alibi." She nodded to herself, pacing now, her designer heels clicking against the hardwood. "It's perfect. It has to be perfect." Thunder rumbled overhead, and Elena jumped, her hand flying to her chest. "Get it together," she muttered. "You're a lawyer. You know how investigations work. You've covered every angle. Every possible..." A soft sound made her freeze. A throat clearing. Elena's blood turned to ice. She spun around so fast her vision blurred. Dante Marchetti stood in the doorway of his private bathroom, one shoulder leaning against the frame with deceptive casualness. He was still in his tailored suit, though he'd removed his jacket. His crisp white shirt was rolled up to his elbows, revealing forearms marked with scars that hinted at a past he never discussed. But it was his face that made Elena's knees go weak. Those steel gray eyes, eyes that had always seemed to look straight through her, were fixed on her with an intensity that made the air leave her lungs. His expression was unreadable, carved from granite, but there was something in the set of his jaw that terrified her more than anger ever could. Calculation. Mr. Marchetti, Elena gasped, her mind scrambling for purchase like fingers on ice. I didn't realize you were in the bathroom? His voice was silk over steel, with just a hint of an Italian accent that became more pronounced when he was angry. Or focused. Clearly. He pushed off the doorframe and moved into the room with the fluid grace of a predator. Everything about Dante Marchetti was controlled, purposeful. At 38, he'd built an empire that straddled the line between legitimate business and the shadows of his family's past. People feared him. Governments negotiated with him. Competitors disappeared. And Elena had just confessed to murder in his office. How much did you hear? The question escaped before she could stop it. Dante's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. Everything, Miss Vasquez. He gestured to his phone, lying face up on the small table beside the bathroom door. Its screen showed an active call. To her number. The world tilted. Elena grabbed the desk to keep from falling. The call, she breathed. It didn't disconnect. No, Dante confirmed, moving closer. Each step deliberate. Measured. It didn't. When I returned from my actual phone call, he emphasized the words, I heard you speaking. I was going to announce my presence, but then. He paused, tilting his head. Well. You said some very interesting things. Elena's legal mind kicked into overdrive even as panic clawed at her throat. Deny. Deflect. Discredit. I don't know what you think you heard, but I was just discussing how your sister Maya used an insulin overdose to kill your stepfather approximately 1 hour ago? Dante finished, his voice conversational, as if they were discussing the weather. How you planned every detail. How the police won't suspect anything. He was close now. Too close. Elena could smell his cologne, something expensive and dark, like cedar and smoke. Should I continue? He asked softly. I have an excellent memory, Miss Vasquez. Occupational necessity. The threat was clear. He could repeat her entire confession. What are you going to do? Elena whispered, hating how small her voice sounded. Dante studied her for a long moment, those gray eyes cataloging every detail of her face, the fear, the defiance struggling to surface, the intelligence still working behind her panic. That, he said finally, is an excellent question. He walked past her to his desk, picked up a crystal decanter, and poured 2 glasses of amber liquid. He held one out to her. Sit, Elena. We need to talk about your future. Her future. Not whether he'd call the police. Not whether he'd turn her in. Her future. And in that moment, Elena realized something that made her blood run both hot and cold. Dante Marchetti, the man rumored to have connections to every crime family from New York to Naples, the man whose background was shrouded in violence and power, wasn't shocked by what she'd done. He was interested. What would you do if someone discovered your darkest secret? Would you run, or would you stay and face the consequences? Drop your thoughts below, I'm curious what you'd choose. When I got out of the hospital 3 weeks later, my father was gone. Disappeared. The official story was he'd run off with his mistress. But my uncle, my mother's brother, he told me the truth years later. Dante turned to face her, and his eyes were cold as winter steel. The family took care of it. Because blood protects blood, and my father had violated the most sacred rule, he'd become a liability. Elena's mind raced, putting together the pieces. Your family. You mean? The Marchetti family has deep roots in New York, Dante said simply. Some of those roots grow in darkness. I've spent the last 20 years pulling the family business into the light, making us legitimate. But I've never forgotten where I came from, Elena. Or what it takes to survive men like your stepfather. He moved back to his desk, pulling out a file folder she recognized, her employment file. You've worked for me for 3 years, Dante said, flipping through the pages. In that time, you've been exemplary. Brilliant legal mind, tireless work ethic, complete discretion. You closed deals other lawyers said were impossible. You navigated legal complexities that would have buried my competitors. Do you know why I hired you? Elena shook her head, not trusting her voice. Because when I interviewed you, I saw something in your eyes. Hunger. Not for money or status, but for safety. For control. I recognized it because I saw the same thing in the mirror for years. He closed the file. I've been waiting for you to trust me enough to tell me what you were running from. I never thought you'd find out like this, Elena whispered. Neither did I. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. But here we are. You've committed murder, confessed it in my office, and now you're sitting in front of a man whose family built their empire on violence and secrets. So I'll ask you again, Elena, what do you think I'm going to do? This was a test. Elena could feel it in every fiber of her being. Dante Marchetti was testing her intelligence, her courage, her instinct for survival. She thought about running, about begging, about a dozen different responses. But then she looked into those gray eyes and saw the truth. He wasn't her enemy. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I think, Elena said slowly, that you're going to tell me what this is going to cost me. Dante's smile widened, genuine this time. Smart girl. But you're thinking too small. He returned to his chair, steepling his fingers under his chin. I don't want your money, Elena. I don't need it. And I'm not going to turn you in. What purpose would that serve? Your stepfather was exactly the kind of predator who deserved what he got, and the world is better without him in it. Relief flooded through Elena, so intense she felt dizzy. But Dante wasn't finished. However, you now possess something very few people have, my complete attention. You've proven yourself to be intelligent, resourceful, and willing to do whatever it takes to protect the people you love. These are qualities I value highly. What are you saying? I'm saying that Marchetti Enterprises is expanding into new territories. Complex territories that require someone with your particular skills and, shall we say, moral flexibility. Dante's eyes gleamed with something Elena couldn't quite name. I'm offering you a promotion, Elena. A partnership, of sorts. In exchange for your silence about tonight. In exchange for your loyalty, Dante corrected. I protect the people who belong to me, Elena. Completely. Absolutely. No one, not the police, not my enemies, not anyone, would ever touch you or your sister. You'd have resources, protection, and the freedom to build the life you've always wanted. It was tempting. God, it was so tempting. But Elena had learned long ago that nothing came without a price. And what would you want from me in return? Everything, Dante said simply. Your brilliant legal mind. Your absolute discretion. Your presence at my side as I navigate the complicated world between legitimate business and family obligations. He paused, his gaze intensifying. And your trust. Complete trust. The way he said it made Elena's heart skip. This wasn't just about business. There was something else beneath his words, something that made the air between them feel charged with possibility and danger in equal measure. I need time to think, Elena said, though she suspected they both knew she'd already made her decision. What choice did she have? Of course. Dante glanced at his watch. It's 10:47. If I'm not mistaken, your sister will be calling 911 in approximately 13 minutes. You should be somewhere visible when that happens. Somewhere with witnesses. He stood, retrieving his jacket from the back of his chair. I'm going downstairs to the executive lounge. Several board members are still there, celebrating tonight's deal. You're going to join me, have a drink, let them see your face. When your sister calls you with the terrible news about your stepfather's death, you'll have a dozen witnesses who can confirm you were miles away. Elena stood on shaky legs. You're giving me an alibi. I'm protecting my investment, Dante corrected, but there was warmth in his voice now. You have until tomorrow morning to give me your answer about my offer. But tonight, you're going to let me help you, Elena. Because whether you accept my proposal or not, I'm not going to let you face this alone. He offered her his arm, a gesture so old-fashioned and unexpected that Elena almost laughed. Instead, she placed her hand in the crook of his elbow, feeling the solid strength of him beneath the expensive fabric. Why are you doing this? She asked as he led her toward the door. Dante paused, looking down at her. In the soft lighting, his features seemed less severe, almost gentle. Because I know what it's like to be trapped by monsters, he said quietly. And I know what it takes to become the monster instead. The question is, Elena Vasquez, which one are you? Before she could answer, his phone buzzed. Then hers. They both looked at their screens simultaneously. Maya's name flashed on Elena's phone. The timestamp read 10:59 p.m. Right on schedule. Elena's hand trembled as she answered. Maya? What's wrong? Her sister's voice came through, high and panicked and perfectly convincing. Elena, oh God, Elena, something's happened. It's Marcus. I came to return some of Mom's things he had, and I found him. He's not breathing. I think I think he's dead. What? Maya, slow down. Where are you? His apartment. I already called 911, but Elena, I'm scared. Can you come? Please? Elena looked at Dante. He nodded almost imperceptibly. I'm on my way, Elena said. Stay calm, stay on the line with the police. I'll be there as soon as I can. She ended the call, her heart hammering. This was it. The performance of her life was about to begin. We need to make this convincing, Dante said, his hand settling on the small of her back. You're about to receive terrible news. Your stepfather, no matter what he did to you, was family. People will expect grief. I can handle it. I know you can. His hand tightened slightly. But you don't have to handle it alone anymore. There was something in his voice, in his touch, that made Elena look up at him. Their eyes met, and in that moment, she saw past the calculated businessman, past the dangerous heir to a criminal empire, to the 12-year-old boy who'd survived his own monster. Thank you, she whispered. Dante's expression softened. Thank me when this is over. They walked together to the elevator, two people bound by secrets and survival, stepping into an unknown future. Neither of them noticed the security camera in the corner of Dante's office, its red light blinking steadily in the darkness, recording everything. The executive lounge was all dark wood and leather, populated by men in expensive suits nursing scotch and cigars. When Elena walked in on Dante's arm, every conversation paused. She felt their eyes cataloging everything, her pale face, her trembling hands, the protective way Dante guided her to the bar. Miss Vasquez, Robert Chen, the chief financial officer, approached with a broad smile. Congratulations on the Cardenas deal. That was masterful negotiation. Elena forced her lips into what she hoped resembled a smile. Thank you, Mr. Chen. It was a team effort. Nonsense. Dante told us you were the architect of the whole strategy. Chen raised his glass. To Elena Vasquez, the brilliant mind behind our biggest acquisition. Others joined the toast. Elena accepted a glass of champagne she had no intention of drinking. The clock on the wall read 11:03. In approximately 20 minutes, she'd receive the call that would change everything. She needed these men to remember her here, smiling, celebrating. Dante's hand remained at her back, steady and grounding. You seem distracted, he murmured in her ear, playing the concerned boss perfectly. Everything all right? Just tired, Elena replied, aware of their audience. It's been a long day. Her phone buzzed. Not Maya, a text from an unknown number. We need to talk. Tomorrow. Noon. Central Park, Bow Bridge. Come alone. V. Elena's blood froze. She didn't know anyone with the initial V. Her fingers moved to delete it, but Dante's hand covered hers, stopping her. He'd seen it too. Excuse us, gentlemen, Dante said smoothly. I need to discuss something with Miss Vasquez privately. He led her to a quiet corner, his expression unreadable. Who's V? I don't know. Elena's mind raced through possibilities. I've never received a message from this number. Let me see. Dante took her phone, his fingers flying across the screen. This number is routed through multiple proxies. Whoever sent this knows how to hide their identity. His jaw tightened. And they know how to find yours. You think this is about Marcus? Possibly. Dante handed back her phone. Or it could be completely unrelated. Either way, you're not going alone. The message said. I know what it said. His eyes hardened. And I'm telling you that you're not meeting an unknown contact without protection. Not anymore. Before Elena could respond, her phone rang. Maya's number flashed on the screen. It was 11:24, exactly the right time. Answer it, Dante instructed quietly. Remember, you're shocked. Devastated. Elena's hands shook as she accepted the call. Maya? Elena. Her sister's voice cracked convincingly. The paramedics just confirmed it. He's gone. Marcus is dead. Elena let the glass slip from her fingers. It shattered on the marble floor, champagne spreading like blood. Every head in the lounge turned toward her. What? No, that's Maya, what happened? Elena's voice rose, genuine tears streaming down her face now. Not for Marcus, but for everything, the years of pain, the fear, the impossible relief of knowing he could never hurt them again. Dante caught her elbow as her knees buckled. Elena, what's wrong? My stepfather, she gasped, loud enough for everyone to hear. He's dead. My sister just found him. The room erupted in concerned murmurs. Robertson rushed over, others followed. Dante supported Elena's weight, his arm around her waist, his expression perfectly calibrated between professional concern and personal care. I need to go to her, Elena said, looking up at Dante. Maya's alone with the police, and she's? Of course. Dante turned to Chen. Get my car brought around. Elena, I'm driving you. You don't have to. I insist. His tone left no room for argument. To the others, he said, Gentlemen, we'll have to cut the celebration short. Family emergency. Within minutes, Elena was in the back of Dante's sleek black Mercedes, the city lights blurring past the tinted windows. The driver, a silent man with military bearing, navigated through traffic with practiced efficiency. Dante sat beside her, his presence solid and real in a world that had turned surreal. That text, Elena whispered. What if someone knows? If someone knew what you did, they wouldn't ask for a meeting. They'd go to the police or use it as leverage immediately. Dante's voice was calm, analytical. This is something else. But the timing could be coincidental. He turned to face her fully. Elena, look at me. She did. In the dim interior of the car, his features were shadowed, but his eyes caught the passing streetlights like steel reflecting fire. Whatever this is, we'll handle it. Together. But first, you need to get through tonight. The police will want to speak with you, ask questions about Marcus, about his health, his state of mind. What do you tell them? Elena's legal training kicked in, overriding her panic. The truth. That we were estranged, that I hadn't seen him in years until he recently contacted me asking for money. That I refused, and we had no further contact. Good. And Maya? She'll say she went to return some of our mother's belongings that he'd kept. She has a key from years ago. She found him unresponsive and called 911 immediately. Perfect. Dante nodded. Keep it simple. Don't volunteer information. Express appropriate but not excessive grief. You were estranged, after all. The car pulled up outside a modest apartment building in Queens. Police cars and an ambulance were parked outside, their lights painting the street in red and blue. Elena's breath caught. This was real. This was happening. Dante's hand found hers in the darkness. You can do this. His touch sent electricity through her, steadying and unsettling at once. Elena looked down at their intertwined fingers, his scarred and strong, hers trembling but holding on. Why are you helping me? She asked again. Dante's thumb traced circles on her palm, the gesture surprisingly gentle. Because you remind me of someone I used to be. And because, he paused, something unguarded flickering across his face. Because I haven't been able to stop thinking about you since the day I hired you. The admission hung between them, heavy with implications. Before Elena could respond, the car door opened. The driver stood waiting, his expression neutral. Reality crashed back. Elena pulled her hand from Dante's, immediately missing the warmth. I should go alone from here, she said. The police will ask questions if you're with me. I'll wait. Dante's voice was firm. Take as long as you need. I'll be right here. Elena stepped out into the cool night air. Ahead, she could see Maya standing outside the building, wrapped in a blanket, talking to a police officer. Her sister looked small and fragile, exactly like a grieving stepdaughter should. Elena started toward her, each step carrying her deeper into the lie they'd constructed. She didn't see the figure watching from across the street, hidden in shadows, a camera raised and clicking.
The police interview lasted 2 hours. Detective Sarah Morrison was thorough but sympathetic, asking Elena about her relationship with Marcus, when she'd last seen him, whether he'd seemed depressed or unwell. Elena answered each question carefully, her legal training serving her well. She was calm, composed, appropriately sad but not dramatically so. Maya, meanwhile, had played her part flawlessly. She sat in the ambulance, wrapped in a shock blanket, her eyes red-rimmed and distant. When the sisters finally embraced, Elena felt her sibling trembling. You did perfectly, Elena whispered into Maya's hair. It's almost over. But even as she said it, Elena's mind kept returning to that text message. We need to talk. Who is V? And what did they want? By the time the police finished and the body was removed, it was nearly 2 a.m. Detective Morrison handed Elena her card. The medical examiner will perform an autopsy as a matter of procedure. Given Mr. Reeves's medical history, it's likely he died from complications related to his diabetes. But we'll know more in a few days. Thank you, Detective, Elena said, pocketing the card. Maya's boyfriend David arrived to take her home. He was a kind-faced man in his early 30s, a high school English teacher with gentle eyes and an easy manner. He wrapped Maya in his arms, and Elena saw her sister finally break, sobbing into his chest. I've got her, David assured Elena. You should go home, get some rest. Elena nodded, watching them leave. Only when they were gone did she allow herself to breathe. Dante's Mercedes was still parked down the street, exactly where she'd left it. The driver opened the door as she approached, and Elena slid into the back seat, exhaustion crashing over her like a wave. Dante was on his phone, speaking rapid Italian. When he saw her, he ended the call immediately. How did it go? As well as could be expected. The detective seemed satisfied that it was natural causes. Elena leaned her head back against the leather seat. The autopsy will take a few days. It will come back clean, Dante said with certainty. Insulin overdose in a diabetic looks identical to natural hyperglycemia or hypoglycemia, especially if the timing is right. By the time they test, the insulin will be metabolized. There's nothing to find. Elena turned to look at him. You sound very sure of that. I've made it my business to understand these things. Dante's expression was unreadable. Knowledge is survival, Elena. You learn what you need to know to protect yourself and the people who matter. The car began moving, gliding through empty streets. Elena realized she hadn't given the driver an address. Where are we going? My penthouse. You shouldn't be alone tonight, and your apartment isn't secure enough. Dante held up a hand before she could protest. Nothing inappropriate. I have 4 guest suites. You'll have complete privacy. But if something goes wrong, if the police have follow-up questions, if whoever sent you that text makes another move, I need you somewhere I can protect you. Elena knew she should refuse. Going to Dante Marchetti's home, accepting his protection, was another step deeper into a world she didn't fully understand. But the truth was, she didn't want to be alone. Not tonight. Just for tonight, she said quietly. Of course. Dante's smile was slight. Unless you decide otherwise. The penthouse occupied the entire top floor of the building where Marchetti Enterprises was housed. When they stepped off the private elevator, Elena found herself in a space that was somehow both minimalist and luxurious. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the city. The furniture was modern, expensive, carefully chosen. But there were personal touches too, books in Italian and English, photographs in simple frames, a vintage record player in the corner. The second guest suite is through there, Dante said, pointing to a hallway. You'll find everything you need. I had my assistant stock the closets with various sizes of clothing for emergencies. You keep women's clothing on hand? Elena raised an eyebrow. I keep everything on hand, Dante corrected. Preparation is the difference between chaos and control. He moved to a bar cart and poured 2 glasses of water. You should try to sleep. Tomorrow will be complicated. Elena accepted the water. The meeting. At Bow Bridge. Which you're not attending alone. Dante's tone brooked no argument. I'll have my security team sweep the area first, position people nearby. If this is a threat, we'll neutralize it. If it's something else. He trailed off. What else could it be? I don't know yet. But I will. Dante set down his glass. I've already started tracing that number. By morning, I'll know who sent it and why. Elena should have been disturbed by how easily he said that, by the resources he clearly had at his disposal. Instead, she felt relieved. For years, she'd handled everything alone, protecting Maya, building their lives, planning Marcus's death. Now, for the first time, someone was offering to share the burden. Someone dangerous. Someone powerful. Someone looking at her like she was the most fascinating puzzle he'd ever encountered. Why did you say that earlier? Elena asked. About not being able to stop thinking about me? Dante went very still. You want to have this conversation now? At 2 a.m, after everything that's happened tonight. Yes. He studied her for a long moment, then moved closer. The day you interviewed for this position, you walked into my office wearing an off-the-rack suit and carrying a briefcase held together with duct tape. You had $300 in your bank account and a sister depending on you. But when I asked you why I should hire you instead of the Ivy League candidates who'd applied, you looked me in the eye and said, because I'll work harder, think smarter, and I have something they don't, I know what it's like to fight for everything I have. Elena remembered that interview. She'd been terrified but determined. In that moment, Dante continued, I saw something I recognized. Hunger. Survival instinct. The kind of steel core that most people never develop because they've never needed to. His hand lifted, hesitated, then gently tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. I've been surrounded by people my entire life, Elena. Family, employees, associates. But I've rarely met someone who understood what it really means to do whatever it takes. His touch sent warmth spreading through her. Elena's heart hammered, but she didn't step back. Until tonight, you mean? Tonight just confirmed what I already knew. Dante's thumb traced her jawline, featherlight. You're extraordinary. And you're wasted doing contract negotiations and merger agreements. What should I be doing instead? Standing beside me, he said simply. Building something that matters. Using that brilliant, ruthless mind for more than closing deals. Elena's breath caught. This was insane. Less than 6 hours ago, she'd helped commit murder. Now she was standing in Dante Marchetti's penthouse, his hand on her face, feeling things she had no business feeling. "This is a bad idea," she whispered. "Probably." Dante's smile was slow, dangerous. "But you didn't answer my question from earlier. Are you going to accept my offer? The partnership. I don't even know what that would mean." "It means you stop hiding. Stop pretending to be just another corporate lawyer when we both know you're so much more." His other hand came up to frame her face. "It means you trust me the way I'm choosing to trust you." "You recorded my confession," Elena pointed out. "That's not trust." "I deleted it." At her shocked expression, Dante continued, "While you were with the police. I erased the security footage, the phone logs, everything. There's no evidence that call ever happened, that you ever said those things in my office. You're protected, Elena. Completely." "Why would you do that?" "Because I meant what I said. I protect the people who belong to me." His eyes searched hers. "The question is, do you want to belong to me?" The words should have sounded possessive, controlling. Instead, they sounded like a promise. Like safety. Elena's phone buzzed, shattering the moment. Another text from the unknown number. "I know what you did. Tomorrow. Noon. Come alone or your sister pays the price. V." The blood drained from Elena's face. Dante took the phone, read the message, and his expression turned to ice. "Change of plans," he said, his voice deadly calm. "We're not waiting until tomorrow." He pulled out his own phone, dialing. "Marco, I need you to trace a number. Now. And get the full team ready." A pause. "Yes, all of them. We have a situation." Elena grabbed his arm. "Dante, what are you doing?" He looked at her, and in his eyes she saw the truth of who he really was, not just a businessman, but the heir to a legacy built on power and violence. "I'm keeping my promise," he said. "No one threatens what's mine." By 4 a.m, Dante's penthouse had transformed into a command center. 3 men in dark suits occupied the living room, their laptops glowing in the dim light. Elena recognized Marco, Dante's head of security, a broad-shouldered man with sharp eyes and military precision. The others were strangers, but they moved with the same lethal efficiency. "The number's a burner," Marco reported, his fingers flying across his keyboard. "But it pinged off a cell tower in Brooklyn. Dumbo area, near the waterfront." "Narrow it down," Dante ordered. He stood by the windows, his silhouette dark against the city lights. "I want to know every business, every residence within that radius." Elena sat on the leather couch, watching this unfold with a mixture of awe and fear. This was a side of Dante she'd never seen, commanding, ruthless, every inch the dangerous man rumors claimed him to be. "There's something else," Marco said, hesitation in his voice. "The metadata on that message, it was sent using encryption software. Military grade. Whoever this is, they're not some random blackmailer." Dante turned slowly. "Explain." "This level of encryption? It's used by intelligence agencies, high-level corporate espionage, organized crime families." Marco met his boss's gaze. "Someone with serious resources is watching Miss Vasquez." The words hung in the air like a blade. Elena's hands trembled, and she clasped them together to hide it. "Could it be the Russos?" one of the other men asked. "They've been pushing back against our expansion." "No," Dante cut him off. "This isn't their style. They'd come at me directly, not through Elena." He looked at her, his expression softening slightly. "Think, Elena. Is there anyone from your past, anyone at all, who might know about Marcus? About what you planned?" Elena's mind raced through possibilities. "No one. Maya and I didn't tell anyone. We couldn't risk." She stopped, a memory surfacing. "Wait. 3 months ago, I consulted with someone about hypothetical legal scenarios. For a case I said I was researching." Dante crossed her in 3 strides. "Who?" "A private investigator. Vincent Calabrese. I wanted to understand how police investigate suspicious deaths, what they look for, what raises red flags." Elena's voice shook. "I paid cash, used a fake name, met him in a coffee shop in New Jersey. He couldn't possibly." "Vincent Calabrese," Marco interrupted, already typing. His face went pale. "Boss, we have a problem." Dante moved behind Marco's chair, reading the screen. Elena watched his jaw clench. What? She demanded. Who is he? Former FBI, Dante said quietly. Specialized in organized crime. Forced into early retirement 5 years ago after allegations of misconduct, specifically, selling information to the families he was supposed to be investigating. Elena's stomach dropped. Oh God. He's been working as a private investigator since then, but he's also a freelance information broker. He sells secrets to the highest bidder. Dante's hands gripped the back of Marco's chair. If you consulted with him about suspicious deaths, and then your stepfather dies under suspicious circumstances. He put it together, Elena finished. And now he's blackmailing me. Not just blackmailing, Marco said, pulling up another window. According to my sources, Calabrese has been shopping information around. He approached the Gallo family last week, claiming he had something explosive about Marchetti Enterprises. Dante went very still. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. What did they buy? Nothing yet. They're negotiating price. Marco looked up. But if he's connected Elena to you, and he knows about the murder, he'll sell it to whoever pays the most, Dante finished. And my enemies would pay very well for leverage against me. Elena stood on shaking legs. This is my fault. I led him right to you. I should never have. Dante crossed to her, his hands gripping her shoulders. Stop. This isn't your fault. Calabrese is a predator who preys on desperate people. You couldn't have known. But he's going to destroy everything. Your business, your reputation, Maya's life. Tears burned Elena's eyes. I should turn myself in. If I confess, tell them it was all me, that you had nothing to do with it. Absolutely not. Dante's voice was steel. You're not sacrificing yourself. We're going to handle this. How? He has evidence, probably recordings of our consultation. Once he sells that information, he won't get the chance. Dante released her shoulders and turned to Marco. Get me everything on Calabrese. Where he lives, where he works, who he associates with, what he owes and to whom. I want his entire life mapped out by sunrise. Already on it, Marco confirmed. Elena grabbed Dante's arm. What are you planning? He looked down at her, and in his eyes she saw something that made her blood run cold. I'm planning to make sure Vincent Calabrese never threatens you again. Dante, no. If you hurt him, I'm not going to kill him, Elena. Dante's thumb brushed her cheek. I'm going to do something much more effective. I'm going to make him wish he'd never heard your name. Before Elena could respond, her phone buzzed again. Another message. Time's up. I'm calling the FBI at noon unless you bring $500,000 to Bow Bridge. Cash. No tricks. $500,000, Elena breathed. I don't have anywhere near that. But I do, Dante said calmly. He took her phone, studying the message. Marco, prep a briefcase with the money. Used bills, non-sequential. And get me a duplicate case, identical weight. Boss, you're not seriously planning to pay him? Of course not. Dante's smile was predatory. But he needs to think I am. Elena's legal mind began working through the plan. You're going to swap the cases. Give him a fake. Better than that. Dante handed the phone to Marco. I'm going to give him exactly what he wants. And then I'm going to take everything from him. I don't understand. Dante cupped her face in his hands, his touch surprisingly gentle despite the ruthlessness in his eyes. Vincent Calabrese made a critical mistake. He threatened someone under my protection. And worse, he threatened someone he stopped, something vulnerable flickering across his features. Someone you what? Elena whispered. Someone I'm beginning to care about far more than is wise. His forehead touched hers. I can't let anything happen to you, Elena. I won't. The admission sent heat flooding through her. This was madness, falling for a man like Dante Marchetti, a man who operated in shadows, who commanded loyalty through fear and respect in equal measure. But standing here in his arms, feeling safer than she'd felt in years, Elena couldn't bring herself to pull away. What happens at noon? She asked. You're going to meet Calabrese at Bow Bridge, exactly as he demanded. You'll bring the money, appear cooperative, frightened. But you won't be alone. Dante's eyes burned into hers. I'll be there. My team will be there. And by the time Calabrese realizes what's happening, it will be far too late. This could go wrong in 100 different ways. It won't. His confidence was absolute. Trust me, Elena. And God help her, she did. The hours before noon crawled by like years. Elena tried to sleep but couldn't. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Vincent Calabrese's face, a man she'd met once, 3 months ago, who now held her entire future in his hands. At 8 in the morning, Maya called. Elena answered on the first ring. The detective called, Maya said, her voice tight. They want me to come in for a follow-up interview this afternoon. Elena's heart jumped. Did she say why? No, just that it's routine. Maya paused. Elena, what if they suspect something? What if? They don't, Elena said firmly, aware that Dante was listening from across the room. It's standard procedure. Answer their questions truthfully. You went to return Mom's things, you found Marcus unresponsive, you called 911. That's all you know. Okay. Maya didn't sound convinced. Where are you? You sound different. I'm at a colleague's place. I couldn't face going home last night. Not a lie, exactly. Maya, I need you to trust me. Everything is going to be fine. After she hung up, Dante approached with a cup of coffee. Your sister's interview is a complication. You think Calabrese tipped them off? Possibly. Or the medical examiner found something that raised questions. Dante sat beside her. Either way, we need to neutralize Calabrese before he can do more damage. Marco entered, carrying 2 identical briefcases. The money's ready. 500,000 in the real case, cut newspaper in the duplicate. Same weight, same feel. Good. Dante checked his watch. We leave in 2 hours. Elena, you need to eat something. I can't. You have to. His hand covered hers. You need to appear calm and control. Calabrese is expecting a frightened woman he can manipulate. Give him what he expects while we handle the rest. Elena forced down toast and coffee while Dante and his team reviewed the plan. She'd meet Calabrese on Bow Bridge at noon with the money. Dante's people would be positioned throughout Central Park, joggers, tourists, vendors, all of them armed and watching. The moment Calabrese took the briefcase, they'd move. What if he's not alone? Elena asked. He will be, Dante said. Men like Calabrese don't share. He thinks he's found a gold mine, and he'll want to keep all the profit for himself. At 11:30, they left. Elena sat in the back of Dante's Mercedes, the briefcase full of money at her feet. Dante was in a separate car with Marco, coordinating the team. Miss Vasquez, the driver said, a different man than last night, younger, but equally professional. Mr. Marchetti wants you to know that you're completely safe. We won't let anything happen to you. Elena nodded, not trusting her voice. Central Park was crowded despite the overcast sky. Elena walked toward Bow Bridge, her heels clicking on the path, the briefcase heavy in her hand. She wore the same clothes from last night. Dante had insisted she look exhausted, desperate. Bow Bridge came into view, its elegant iron arch spanning the lake. And there, leaning against the railing, was Vincent Calabrese. He was exactly as Elena remembered, mid-50s, gray hair, unremarkable features. The kind of man who disappeared in a crowd. But his eyes were sharp, calculating. Miss Vasquez, he called out. Or should I say, Miss Elena Vasquez, senior legal consultant at Marchetti Enterprises? Elena's blood ran cold. He knew her real identity. You have what I asked for? Calabrese gestured to the briefcase. First, I want to know what you have on me. Calabrese smiled. A recording of our consultation. Your questions about how to make a murder look like natural causes. Very specific questions about insulin and diabetics. He pulled out his phone. And then there's the interesting fact that your stepfather, a diabetic, died of apparent natural causes the very same night you were working late at Marchetti Enterprises. That proves nothing. Alone, no. But combined with security footage of you leaving the building at 10:47 p.m., looking extremely distressed, and phone records showing calls between you and your sister. Calabrese's smile widened. It's enough to interest the police. Especially when I tell them who you work for. Elena's hands tightened on the briefcase. What does Dante have to do with this? Everything. Calabrese pushed off the railing. See, I did some digging after our consultation. Found out you worked for Dante Marchetti. That made me very curious. So I've been watching you. Following you. And last night, I saw something very interesting. He pulled out a tablet, tapped the screen, and turned it toward her. Elena's stomach dropped. The image showed her and Dante entering his building together at 2 a.m. Another showed them in the back of his car, hands clasped. Another showed them standing close in his penthouse, his hand on her face. Dante Marchetti's enemies would pay a fortune for proof that he's involved with a woman who committed murder, Calabrese said. They'd pay even more for evidence that he helped her cover it up. He didn't. Doesn't matter what's true. Matters what I can make people believe. Calabrese held out his hand. The money, Miss Vasquez. And this is just the first payment. I'll be in touch about the next installment. Elena's mind raced. He wasn't planning to disappear with the money, he was planning to bleed her dry, month after month. And when she couldn't pay anymore, he'd sell everything to Dante's enemies. How do I know you won't go to the police anyway? She asked, stalling. Because you're worth more to me alive and free. Dead or in prison, you can't pay. Calabrese stepped closer. Now give me the briefcase, or I make a call to the FBI field office. Your choice. Elena looked around the bridge. Tourists snapping photos. A jogger passing by. A street musician playing saxophone nearby. No sign of Dante or his team. She was alone. I need your word, Elena said desperately. That this ends it. That you'll destroy the evidence. Calabrese laughed. You're not in a position to negotiate, sweetheart. The briefcase. Now. Elena's hands trembled as she held it out. Calabrese grabbed it, his fingers brushing hers. He was already turning away when Elena's phone buzzed. A message from Dante, get down. Now. Elena dropped to the ground just as chaos erupted. The jogger wasn't jogging anymore, he was sprinting toward Calabrese. The street musician dropped his saxophone, revealing a weapon. 3 more men appeared from nowhere, surrounding the bridge. Calabrese ran, but he didn't get far. 2 men tackled him on the far side of the bridge. The briefcase flew from his hands, landing in the grass. But then Elena heard something that made her blood freeze. Sirens. Multiple sirens, getting closer. Dante appeared at her side, pulling her to her feet. His face was fury and fear combined. We need to go. Now. What's happening? Calabrese called the police before he came here. This whole meeting was a setup. Dante's hand gripped hers. He was never planning to blackmail you. He was planning to get you arrested, get me implicated, and sell the story to the highest bidder. Police cars were visible now, speeding toward the park entrance. Run, Dante commanded his team. They scattered like smoke. But Elena stood frozen, watching the police cars approach, knowing that everything, her freedom, Maya's safety, Dante's empire, was about to come crashing down. Dante's hand tightened around Elena's wrist. We have 30 seconds before those police cars reach us. Do you trust me? Elena's heart hammered against her ribs. The sirens were getting louder, closer. Calabrese was on the ground, restrained by Dante's men who were already melting into the crowd. Tourists were starting to notice, pulling out phones. Yes, Elena breathed. I trust you. Then follow my lead. Dante released her wrist and immediately wrapped his arm around her shoulders, his posture shifting from protective to casual. We're just 2 people taking a walk in the park. Nothing more. He guided her away from Bow Bridge at a measured pace, not running, not hurrying, just strolling like any other couple enjoying Central Park. Elena's legal training kicked in. Running implied guilt. Walking implied innocence. Behind them, police officers swarmed the bridge. Elena heard shouting, saw Calabrese pointing in their direction. But Dante kept walking, his arms steady around her. Mr. Marchetti. A voice called out. Mr. Marchetti, can we have a word? Dante stopped, turning with perfect composure. Detective Morrison jogged toward them, 2 uniformed officers flanking her. Elena's mouth went dry. Detective Morrison, Dante said smoothly. Twice in 12 hours. To what do we owe the pleasure? Morrison's eyes flicked between them, assessing. We received a call about a potential extortion situation. The caller claimed there was going to be an exchange of money for sensitive information right here on Bow Bridge at noon. How interesting, Dante replied. We were just taking a walk. Elena had a difficult night. Her stepfather passed away unexpectedly. I thought some fresh air might help. Morrison focused on Elena. Miss Vasquez. I'm sorry for your loss. I didn't realize you and Mr. Marchetti were. She let the question hang. Elena's mind raced. What story would make sense? What would explain them being here together? Dante has been very supportive, Elena said quietly, leaning slightly into him. The gesture felt natural, right? We've worked together for 3 years, and when I got the news about Marcus last night, he insisted on driving me to Queens. I was too upset to be alone, so he offered me his guest room. It was the truth, carefully edited. The best lies always were. Morrison nodded slowly. And you just happened to be in Central Park at noon? I needed to clear my head before Maya's follow-up interview this afternoon, Elena said. Dante offered to walk with me. Is there a problem, detective? That depends. Morrison gestured toward the bridge where officers were questioning Calabrese. Do you know that man? Elena looked at Calabrese, who was struggling against the officers, shouting something she couldn't hear. She let confusion cross her face. No. Should I? His name is Vincent Calabrese. He called 911 claiming he was being threatened by associates of Dante Marchetti. He said he had evidence of criminal activity and was meeting someone here to exchange that evidence for money. Dante's laugh was smooth, genuinely amused. Detective, I appreciate the creativity, but I don't operate that way. If someone claims to have damaging information about me or my company, I have an entire legal team to handle it. I certainly don't conduct briefcase exchanges in Central Park. Mr. Calabrese seems very convinced you were involved. Mr. Calabrese is a disgraced Federal Bureau of Investigation agent with a reputation for selling false information, Dante countered. I'm familiar with his work. He's tried to extort several prominent business people in New York. Each time, his evidence turned out to be fabricated. Morrison's expression shifted slightly. She hadn't known that detail. Check his background, detective, Dante continued. I think you'll find this is a pattern for him. He identifies wealthy individuals, manufactures some crisis, then tries to extract money by claiming to have sensitive information. It's fraud, pure and simple. Then you won't mind if we search you? Both of you. Elena's blood ran cold, but Dante didn't hesitate. Of course not. We have nothing to hide. The pat-down was professional, quick. Elena held her breath, but there was nothing to find. No money, no evidence, nothing connecting them to whatever Calabrese had claimed. Morrison's radio crackled. She stepped away to answer it, speaking in low tones. When she returned, her expression had changed. Mr. Calabrese had a briefcase with him, she said carefully. It contained cut newspaper. No money. Dante raised an eyebrow. Sounds like he was planning to scam someone and got caught before he could complete the transaction. Did you check him for recordings? He's known to record conversations without consent, then edit them to sound incriminating. Morrison studied Dante for a long moment. Elena could see the detective's mind working, trying to find the angle, the crack in their story. Miss Vasquez, Morrison said finally. Your sister's interview this afternoon. We need to ask her some additional questions about the timeline last night. The medical examiner found something irregular. Elena's heart stopped. Irregular how? I can't discuss details of an ongoing investigation. But I'd like you present for the interview. As her sister, not as her attorney. It was a trap. Morrison wanted to watch Elena's reactions, see if she'd slip up when confronted with whatever the medical examiner had found. Of course, Elena said, keeping her voice steady. Maya has nothing to hide. Neither do I. Morrison handed Elena a card. 3 o'clock. Precinct headquarters. She looked at Dante. Mr. Marchetti, I'm sure we'll be in touch. I look forward to it, detective. They watched Morrison walk away, back toward where other officers were now handcuffing Calabrese. The former Federal Bureau of Investigation agent was still shouting, but no one was listening. The moment the police were out of earshot, Dante's composure cracked. He pulled Elena into a narrow path between trees, his hands framing her face. Tell me Marco got those photos, he said urgently into his concealed earpiece. A pause. Good. Delete everything. Wipe his devices clean. He looked down at Elena. Marco's team grabbed Calabrese's tablet and phone during the takedown. Every photo, every recording, every piece of evidence he had, it's gone now. But what did the medical examiner find? Elena's voice shook. What could possibly be irregular about an insulin overdose? Dante's jaw clenched. I don't know. But we're going to find out before that interview. He pulled out his phone, dialing. I need to call in a favor. Someone who can access the medical examiner's preliminary report. That's illegal. So is murder, Dante said bluntly. We're past the point of legal versus illegal, Elena. We're in survival mode now. Elena watched him pace, speaking rapid Italian into the phone. Around them, Central Park continued its normal rhythm, children playing, couples walking, life going on as if her entire world wasn't balancing on a knife's edge. When Dante hung up, his expression was grim. My contact will have the report in 1 hour. Whatever they found, we'll know before the police question Maya. He pulled Elena close. I meant what I said last night. I protect what's mine. And you're mine now, Elena. Whether you've officially accepted my offer or not. The possessiveness should have frightened her. Instead, wrapped in his arms, Elena felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. The medical examiner's preliminary report arrived at 1:47 p.m. Dante's contact sent it as an encrypted file that would self-delete in 60 seconds. Elena and Dante huddled over his phone in the back of the Mercedes, parked 3 blocks from the precinct. Elena's hands shook as she read. Then she read it again, her legal mind refusing to accept what she was seeing. This is impossible, she whispered. The report stated that Marcus Reeves had died from acute insulin overdose, as expected. But there was an anomaly, trace amounts of a sedative called midazolam in his system. A drug Maya had never mentioned. A drug that wasn't part of their plan. Someone else was there, Dante said quietly. Someone else drugged him before Maya arrived. Elena's mind reeled. But who? Why? That's what we need to figure out in the next hour. Dante was already dialing Marco. Pull everything on Marcus Reeves. Known associates, recent visitors, financial transactions, pharmacy records. Everything. He hung up and turned to Elena. Think. Did Maya mention seeing anyone else at the apartment? Any sign someone had been there? No. She said everything looked normal. Marcus was alone, already showing symptoms when Elena stopped, a horrible realization dawning. Oh my God. What if he was already dying when Maya gave him the insulin? What if we didn't actually kill him? Then someone else did, Dante finished. And they're letting you and Maya take the fall. The phone buzzed. Marco's voice came through the speaker. Boss, I found something. Marcus Reeves had a visitor 2 hours before Maya arrived. Building security camera caught her on the way in. Her. Elena leaned forward. Who? I'm sending the image now. The photo loaded. Elena stared at the screen, and the world tilted. It was a woman in her early 40s, blonde hair pulled back, wearing scrubs. She carried a medical bag and looked tired, professional, completely unremarkable. Except Elena recognized her. Christine Palmer, she breathed. She was Marcus's girlfriend. A nurse. I didn't know she was still in his life. I thought they'd broken up years ago. Dante's eyes sharpened. A nurse would have access to midazolam. And she'd know exactly how to kill someone and make it look natural. Elena's phone rang. Maya. Her hand trembled as she answered. Elena, I need to tell you something. Maya's voice was tight with panic. Before the interview. I lied about something. What did you lie about? I wasn't alone when I went to Marcus's apartment. Christine was there. I ran into her in the lobby. She said she'd come to check on Marcus because he'd called her complaining about feeling sick. We rode the elevator up together. Elena's heart pounded. What happened when you got to the apartment? She went in first. She had a key. By the time I walked in, Marcus was already on the floor, unconscious. Christine was checking his pulse. She told me he must have miscalculated his insulin dose. She said we should call 911 immediately. Maya's breathing was ragged. Elena, I swear I didn't know. I thought he was already dying. I thought the insulin I gave him just finished what had already started. Where's Christine now? I don't know. She left before the paramedics arrived. Said she didn't want to complicate things. Elena, what if she did something to him? What if I'm not the one who? Maya, listen to me very carefully. In 45 minutes, you're going to walk into that interview. Detective Morrison is going to ask you about Christine. You're going to tell her the truth, that Christine was there, that she went into the apartment first, that Marcus was already unconscious when you arrived. But I gave him the insulin afterward. You tried to help what you thought was a medical emergency. Elena interrupted, her legal training over. You panicked. You made a mistake. That's not murder, Maya. That's not even negligence. Dante was already on his phone with Marco. Find Christine Palmer. Current address, vehicle, phone records, everything. And get me her work schedule from the hospital. Elena continued with Maya. Do not mention that we planned anything. Do not mention our conversations. You went to return Mom's belongings, found Christine there, and Marcus was already dying. That's your story. Can you do this? Yes. Maya's voice strengthened. Yes, I can do this. After hanging up, Elena turned to Dante. If Christine killed Marcus and let Maya take the blame, then we prove it, Dante said. Marco, what do you have? Christine Palmer called out sick from her shift at Mount Sinai this morning. Her phone's been off since 6 a.m. But I pulled her financial records. She withdrew $50,000 in cash yesterday. And she has a one-way ticket to Costa Rica tonight at 11 p.m. Elena's mind raced. She's running. She killed Marcus, let Maya take the fall, and now she's disappearing. Why would she kill him? Dante mused. Revenge? Money? Both, Elena said suddenly. Marcus had a life insurance policy. A big one, $500,000. I remember because he used to brag about it when I was a kid. Said we'd never see a dime of it. Marco's fingers flew across his keyboard. Found it. Policy with Prudential. Beneficiary is. He paused. Christine Palmer. Changed 6 months ago. 6 months. The same time Marcus had resurfaced in Elena and Maya's lives. She planned this, Elena said, pieces falling into place. Marcus contacts us, demands money. We refuse. He gets desperate, reconnects with Christine. She sees an opportunity, get him to change his beneficiary, then kill him when the timing's right. And when she ran into Maya at the building, Dante continued, she realized she'd been handed a perfect patsy. Maya goes to jail for murder, Christine collects $500,000 and disappears to Costa Rica. Elena looked at Dante. We need to catch her before that flight. We need her to confess. Leave that to me. Dante's smile was predatory. Marco, find Christine Palmer. And when you do, bring her somewhere private. Somewhere we can have a conversation. Boss, if we grab her. We're not grabbing her, Dante corrected. We're going to invite her to a meeting. Tell her we know what she did, and we want to negotiate. She thinks she's clever. Let's see how clever she really is. Within 30 minutes, Marco had located Christine at a motel near John F. Kennedy Airport. 20 minutes after that, she'd received a message from an unknown number. I know you killed Marcus Reeves. Meet me at Pier 47 warehouse at 5 p.m. or I go to the police. Come alone. At 2:47 p.m., Elena walked into the precinct with Dante at her side. Maya was already there, pale but composed. Detective Morrison waited in the interview room. I need to tell you something, Detective, Maya said before Morrison could start. About the night Marcus died. I wasn't completely honest before. Morrison leaned forward. Go on. His girlfriend was there. Christine Palmer. She's a nurse. She arrived before me, went into the apartment first. When I got inside, Marcus was already unconscious on the floor. Morrison's expression shifted. Why didn't you mention this before? I was scared. Confused. I didn't think it mattered. Maya's voice shook convincingly. But I've been thinking about it, and something felt wrong. Christine told me Marcus had miscalculated his insulin. But what if he didn't? What if she, Miss Reeves? What if she gave him something? She had her medical bag with her. She was alone with him for at least 2 minutes before I came in. Morrison's eyes narrowed. And you're just mentioning this now? I didn't want to believe it, Maya whispered. Christine was always nice to us when we were kids. But Marcus changed his life insurance beneficiary to her 6 months ago. I found the papers when I was going through his things. Morrison stood abruptly. Wait here. She left the room. Through the window, Elena watched her make a phone call, her expression growing increasingly intense. 15 minutes later, Morrison returned. We've been trying to reach Christine Palmer all day, she said. She's not answering her phone. Her hospital says she called in sick. We're sending officers to her apartment now. Detective, Dante spoke up. If you need additional information about Miss Palmer, I may be able to help. My security team has resources that could locate her quickly. Morrison studied him. This is a police matter, Mr. Marchetti. Of course. I'm simply offering assistance to ensure justice is served. At exactly 5 p.m., Christine Palmer walked into the Pier 47 warehouse. Marco and 3 of Dante's men were waiting. So was a video camera, recording everything. Who are you? Christine demanded. Where's who? Marco asked pleasantly. You came here because you thought someone knew your secret. Well, someone does. Several someones, actually. Christine's face went white. She turned to run, but the warehouse doors were already blocked. Sit down, Miss Palmer, Marco said. We need to talk about Marcus Reeves. And about the midazolam you injected him with approximately 2 hours before Maya Vasquez arrived at his apartment. Christine's composure crumbled. I don't know what you're talking about. We have the security footage. We have your financial records. We know about the life insurance policy, the plane ticket, the cash withdrawal. Marco pulled out a phone. And we have a recording device that's going to capture everything you say for the next 10 minutes. After that, we're turning you over to the police. Unless, of course, you'd like to make a deal. Christine Palmer's confession played on Detective Morrison's laptop at 7:32 p.m. Elena sat beside Maya in the precinct conference room, watching the woman who'd tried to destroy their lives break down completely on screen. He deserved it, Christine sobbed on the recording. Marcus was a monster. He ruined my life, made me his slave for 20 years. When he told me about his stepdaughters refusing to give him money, I saw my chance. I convinced him to make me the beneficiary, told him it would motivate the girls to pay up if they knew someone else would get his money. Marco's voice came through, calm and detached. But you never intended to wait for natural causes, did you? No. I gave him the midazolam to sedate him, then a massive dose of insulin. I made it look like he'd miscalculated. It was perfect. Christine's laugh was brittle. And then Maya showed up. I couldn't believe my luck. She'd take the fall, and I'd disappear with the money. Morrison paused the recording and looked at Maya. Miss Reeves, I owe you an apology. You were a victim in all of this, not a perpetrator. Maya's tears were real this time, tears of relief. I just wanted to return my mother's things. I never meant. You don't need to explain. Morrison's expression softened. Christine Palmer has been arrested at John F. Kennedy Airport attempting to board her flight. She's being charged with first-degree murder. You and your sister are free to go. Outside the precinct, the night air felt impossibly fresh. Elena wrapped her arms around Maya, holding her sister tight. It's over, Elena whispered. It's really over. David appeared, rushing to Maya's side and enveloping her in his arms. I've got you, he murmured. You're safe now. Maya looked at Elena over David's shoulder. How did you know Christine would confess? Elena glanced at Dante, who stood a respectful distance away, giving the sisters their moment. I had help from someone who understands how to protect the people who matter. Later that night, Elena stood once again in Dante's penthouse, but everything felt different now. The weight that had pressed on her chest for months, years, really, was finally lifting. Calabrese is being charged with attempted extortion and fraud, Dante said, pouring 2 glasses of wine. His evidence against you is gone, his credibility destroyed. He won't be a problem anymore. And Christine will spend the rest of her life in prison. Dante handed Elena a glass. Your sister is safe. Your secret is safe. You're free, Elena. Free. The word felt foreign, impossible. I don't know how to thank you, Elena said quietly. Dante moved closer, his gray eyes intense in the soft lighting. You can start by answering the question I asked you yesterday. Will you accept my offer? The partnership. Elena thought about everything that had happened in the past 36 hours. The terror, the risk, the way Dante had protected her without hesitation. But more than that, she thought about how he'd seen her, truly seen her, in all her darkness and desperation, and hadn't turned away. What would this partnership actually look like, she asked. Officially, you'd become general counsel of Marchetti Enterprises. A significant promotion, substantial salary increase, corner office. Dante set down his glass and took both her hands. Unofficially, you'd be my partner in every sense. My confidant, my advisor, the person I trust with the complicated realities of running an empire that exists in shades of gray. And personally? Elena's heart raced. Personally, Dante said softly, I want the chance to know you. The real you, not the careful professional version you show the world. I want to learn what makes you laugh, what keeps you awake at night, What you dream about when you let yourself dream. He stepped closer, his thumb tracing circles on her palm. I know this is fast. I know the circumstances are insane. But Elena, I've spent 3 years watching you from a distance, admiring your brilliance, wondering what it would take to get past your walls. Now I know what's behind those walls, and it doesn't frighten me. It makes me want you more. Elena's breath caught. You barely know me. I know you're brave enough to protect your sister at any cost. I know you're brilliant enough to plan the perfect crime. I know you're strong enough to stand in front of a killer and not break. Dante's hand came up to cup her cheek. I know that when you look at me, you see past the reputation and the money to who I really am. That's more than most people ever see. I'm damaged, Elena whispered. Broken in ways that might never heal. So am I, Dante replied. Maybe that's why we fit. He leaned down slowly, giving her time to pull away. Elena didn't. When his lips met hers, it felt like coming home to a place she'd never been. The kiss was gentle at first, questioning. Then Elena's hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer, and the kiss deepened into something hungry and desperate and healing all at once. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dante rested his forehead against hers. Is that a yes? He asked, a smile in his voice. Yes to the partnership, Elena said. Yes to getting to know each other. But Dante, I need time. Real time. Not just jumping from one crisis into a relationship. We have all the time in the world. He kissed her forehead. I'm not going anywhere, Elena. And neither are you. 3 months later, Elena sat in her new corner office, reviewing contracts for Marchetti Enterprises' expansion into renewable energy. Her title was General Counsel, but her role was so much more. She was Dante's strategist, his conscience, his partner in building something that honored both his family's legacy and his vision for a legitimate future. Maya had found her smile again. She and David were planning a small wedding in the spring. The trauma of Marcus's death and the revelation of Christine's crime had brought them closer rather than tearing them apart. Detective Morrison had closed the case. Marcus Reeves's death was officially ruled a homicide committed by Christine Palmer. Maya and Elena were listed as victims, not suspects. The insurance money went to the state, and Christine was serving life without parole. Vincent Calabrese was in federal prison, his reputation destroyed, his schemes finally catching up with him. And Elena? For the first time in her life, she felt safe. More than that, she felt seen, valued, and cherished. Dante appeared in her doorway, leaning against the frame with that slight smile she'd come to love. Dinner tonight? He asked. There's a new Italian place in Brooklyn I want to try. Is this a date or a business meeting? Elena teased. With us, is there really a difference anymore? Elena laughed, closing her laptop. No, I suppose there isn't. As they left the building together, Dante's hand found hers, their fingers intertwining naturally. The city stretched before them, full of possibility and promise. Any regrets? Dante asked quietly as they walked. Elena thought about the question. She'd committed murder, or believed she had. She'd fallen into the orbit of a dangerous man. She'd crossed lines she'd never imagined crossing. But she'd also saved her sister. Found love in the unlikeliest place. Discovered strength she hadn't known she possessed. No, Elena said finally. No regrets. Dante squeezed her hand. Good. Because this is just the beginning, Elena Vasquez. We have an empire to build. Together, Elena agreed. Together, Dante confirmed. And as they disappeared into the crowded New York streets, two damaged souls who'd found healing in each other, neither of them looked back.